right, take two, because the first time I filmed this video, the sound was completely off. I read The Lore of the Mysteries. We'll call it the very beginning of the prologue. Essentially, I watched the series on Crunchyroll, not technically an anime, Dangma. I'm bad with that name. And I really enjoyed elements of it. I love the horror aspects. I love the arcane. I love the monsters and the psychological element of losing your mind from these powers. The powers were really cool, but I felt that the relationships and dynamics between the characters were incredibly lacking. Everything happened way too fast. It was too anxious to get to the next fight scene that I didn't care about the characters and the repercussions of them. So I was definitely told that the web novel was a better place to start. Now, I agree, and I'm very, very, very thankful that I was told to read the web novel because it is a lot slower paced. But there's a drawback. So, originally, only the first 3 episodes of the Crunchyroll series was out, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's heavy exposition dumps, a lot of stuff being thrown at me. People online are saying it's cutting things out and missing things that are important in the setup that the web novel covered. So I went to what I assumed was an official translation of the web novel and gave it a try. Immediately noped out, like, I can't read this within the first page. I thought it was just like a bad fan translation, not an official version, and I'm just like, I can't read this. This is written far too poorly. I'll just watch the series. It's fine. Watch the series. Again, far too fast pace. I've been told that it's better to read the web novel. I go on Amazon because they're releasing official English translations of it. I assume it's official anyway. And I buy book 1, the only one out right now. And this covers maybe a third of the first arc. So this is barely a prologue introduction. And the writing is still absolute trash. I was struggling to read this between exposition dumps, clunky dialogue, characters who are trying to be very dramatic and really are just coming off full off stupid, because this does not make sense in a logical way. Like, oh, if you see this person, make sure you come report it. Don't you approach them, or your chance of dying and the line of duty will be 1,000%, because they're trying to sound dramatic. Because if you just said the chance of dying is 100%, then that's not dramatic enough. If you say your chance of dying is 1,000%, not an increase of 1,000%, it is 1,000%. I'm just going like, that is not how percentages work. And I get we're in a different universe, but it's pissing me off. Other little leaps in logic or flukes or whatever is just like, oh, this beer that we're drinking is non-alcoholic and we're having a good old time, but this combination of spices simulates or replicates the taste of beer. And then at the end of the conversations, like, I was feeling a little tipsy, so I said this. And I'm like, you just told me it was non-alcoholic. And it just, so many things. The exclamation point, that is what drove me up the wall. Everything. So many times. I wish my Kindle could just tell me how many times an exclamation mark was used, but it can't. I don't know if it couldn't do it because it was used too many times. It couldn't count them all. I just don't think it counts punctuation. But not everything is this exciting. It's just like, if someone spoke at a slightly elevated voice, maybe? I don't think so. Exclamation mark. If he said something that he thought was interesting, exclamation mark. So many exclamation marks driving me up the wall. Rewinding. I liked elements of how we dealt more with the siblings, but that comes at a huge caveat as well. So in the series, we have the protagonist who has sort of isekai'd into a new world after performing a luck ritual. He's sucked into a different body who has recently committed suicide, and now he has 2 siblings that he has declared that I will be Klein, yeah. And he is going to live his life, and he has these feelings, he has these fractured memories, so he does care for his siblings and wants the best for them, wants to care for them. And I like that we're spending a lot more time with them in this web novel versus the series. We're building up the foundation of their dynamics. However, these 3 siblings are living in not absolute poverty, but they are struggling. They don't have much disposable income. However, the only possible way this can be represented is by the fact that they can't afford meat very often. It's just like they could only afford it once every other week. And as I'm now graduating, we're splurging and doing it twice a week. And this is like repeated over and over again. I can look up how many times meat was mentioned in a chapter, and it works because he didn't use any other descriptors. It was just like meat. This meal contained meat. All right, in chapter 11, from page 112 to 117. So it was only mentioned 117, 114, and 113, 112. It was mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Just drilled over and over again, repeatedly. Oh, my poor sister. Her worldview is so constricted. She has no idea of the beauty and majesty of other dishes because she only has meat once a week or every other week. Sorry, camera got knocked over. It was this momentous occasion that they could celebrate by having meat, and what was lacking in their lives was just like they couldn't afford certain condiments or spices or something like that, or other food and other options. But the only way to explain the poverty that they struggled with was that they couldn't have a steak every other day. And that was really frustrating. I mean, it was also, hey, we have to use a community bathroom kind of thing, but there were other ways, or we could just lack the amount of times it was brought up in a single conversation. We could have went into more depth. There was a passing notion of a character's friend's father being laid off, and now they're all like 5 of them crammed into a single bedroom. Like we could have went in other ways, maybe how it affected medically, socially, what we went a little bit into what they could afford. Quite honestly, I think it's just how often it was repeated, and the fact that when they were cooking and eating was the only time we got any emotion in the story. Everything else, the language felt so stilted and lacking of any description and emotion to me, my personal opinion. But whenever they were talking about food, oh, we're going to describe it to high heavens and the feeling we got from eating it. This is how it was displayed. It's not technically a criticism. Some people just like to describe food. I don't really care for descriptions of food. Maybe that's why I didn't like Delicious in Dungeons. Doesn't matter. I'm aware this is most likely a translation issue. It is extremely hard to translate something from one language into another to capture the emotion without changing meaning and dialogue. Translating things one-to-one isn't always the correct answer, as it's hard to capture things that aren't directly said, I would imagine, in Chinese to English. It's a translation issue. It's not a big deal. You guys told me there were pirates later on, so I'm going to continue reading this because the arcane, Leviathan, Lovecraftian horror elements on the sea, yeah, I'm going to continue reading this. I don't think the characters were very well fleshed out yet, but again, in these 30 chapters that were published in book 1, we're not even out of the prologue state. We have introduced the concept of Beyonders and potions, but like he's taken no potion yet. He's just like decided which one he's going to go towards. But I'm very excited to hear more about the journal entries of, I keep calling Rosie, I don't know, whenever I see his name, Russell? I don't know. I see his name, it just translates to Rosie in my head. I'm sorry for that. There are so many mysteries involved with the suicide that happened and the reasoning for it with that other notebook diary that they found from a different time period. I'm very much invested in that, but mostly because of the series, not because of book 1. This was a rocky start. Too many exposition dumps, too many exclamation marks, and a personal issue I have is I like a character who drives the narrative. Klein here was forcibly teleported into this world, and then he's more rolling with it rather than being an active participant at this point. So the police came to him. He didn't go looking for them. They offered him a spot working for them as a civilian person with no hesitation. It's just kind of like, you're probably going to die because if this supernatural thing happened, you survived it once, there's a good chance it's going to roll around and get you. You're a little more protected with us, but up to you. He's like, okay, I guess I'll go with you. And then he gets his job as a Beyonder and the opportunity to take a potion because someone else broke into his house. It's not like he actively went looking for a way to prove himself. It just kind of fell into his lap. Same thing. He ended up in the room with the giant table and the fog and smoke around him because he was trying to get back home, which is an active choice. Appreciate that. And I appreciate that he then took advantage of the situation to drive the narrative that was happening with these other 2 strangers, getting his own information from them. So I like that he was an active part in that sense. Maybe that's why I like that element the most, and I'm lacking my investment in the Beyonders because it really feels like he's just fallen into it. Not a criticism, I just don't really like a character who isn't driving the narrative. But I do believe that it will happen soon because, by God, the fans of this series, they love it so much, and I feel the passion of the fans, and I can't wait to continue for that reason alone. I'm waiting to get hooked It's not there yet. It's nowhere close. But I believe that's happening. It happened for One Piece. The only time fans of a series have steered me wrong was for Jujutsu Kaisen. We're not going to talk about it. So in conclusion, I am not having a good time with the introduction of this series. However, I'm trusting the fans. I'm believing there's pirates in my future, and I'm liking the atmosphere, especially with like the steampunk vibe of it. This is not something I normally enjoy. Normally steampunk I find I get tired of extremely early on. I like it in a photo, I like it for a little bit of a moment, but I feel like it overstays its welcome really easily, and I'm not feeling that way at all. So that's a big positive for the series there. I appreciate that we're drastically slowing things down, focusing more on character moments, mundane moments, slice of life kind of thing, and building up to the action. We haven't had any action really in these first 30 chapters. There was a moment that we showed the power of someone. I wouldn't call it a fight, whereas in the Crunchyroll series, it was from the get-go, let's throw as much action on the screen as we can. So appreciate slowing things down. And I'm trusting you that I will get more invested with Klein as a character. He's definitely good at thinking on his feet, manipulating situations to his benefit, and getting what he needs out of it. I just need him to soon actively drive the plot in a direction that works for him and his goals. What are his goals? I guess figuring out what happened and unraveling mysteries. I do normally prefer a more structured, achievable goal, get to point A to point B, and then there's just stuff happening along the way. But we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to continue. Talk to you later. Bye.